Have you ever been sitting quietly at home and heard a tap at the window, a small, steady sound? And when you looked, there was a bird just sitting there, looking in, not flying off, not panicking, just watching. Most people shake it off, put the kettle on, carry on with the day. But I've stopped shaking things off. 40 years of nursing will do that to you. Hello, my dear friends. My name is Margaret. I'm at the kitchen table with my morning tea today, and I want to tell you something I've been thinking about for a long time. I worked as a nurse for 40 years, the last 15 in a hospice. I've sat with people at the end of their lives more times than I can count. And somewhere along the way, the birds started to notice me. Or perhaps I started to notice them. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't always this way. Now, for the first half of my career, I was the sort of person who rolled her eyes at this kind of thing. Colleagues would mention signs and feelings and strange coincidences, and I'd nod politely and think to myself, tiredness, emotion, people looking for meaning where there isn't any. I had my training, my textbooks, my common sense. I believed in what I could measure. And then things happened, slowly, over years. Enough times that I stopped being able to argue with my own eyes. Today I want to tell you about birds, what I saw myself, what people have told me, and what I still honestly cannot explain. The first story takes me back many years to a time before the hospice when I was doing home visits. Her name was Edna, a small, tidy woman, well into her 80s, the sort who'd spent her whole life looking after everyone else, her husband, her children, the neighbours, never asking for much in return. Her husband Frank had died a couple of years before I began visiting. She didn't speak of him often, but when she did, it was with a quiet warmth. Frank loved the birds, she told me once. Every morning he'd go out and feed them, rain or shine. I'd say, Frank, it's cold, leave it. And he'd say, they're waiting for me, Edna. They don't care about the cold. I visited Edna 3 times a week, and almost every time I came into the kitchen, she'd nod toward the window that faced the garden and say, she came again this morning. A robin, small, with that bright orange-red chest. Every morning she'd land on the windowsill and tap at the glass. Once, twice, then she'd settle and look in. I told myself it was the reflection. The bird sees itself in the glass, thinks it's a rival, a territorial instinct, nothing more. A perfectly ordinary thing. I'd seen it before. But Edna watched that robin with such stillness and such warmth, and she'd say softly, that's Frank, come to check on me. She really believed it. I could see it in her face, this calm, quiet certainty, a happiness almost. I didn't argue with her. It's not my place to tell a woman in her 80s what to think when she looks out her window. This went on for several months. The robin came every morning. Edna waited for her the way you wait for something you know is coming. Then one day in early April, I arrived at my usual time. The door wasn't locked. I let myself in and found Edna in her chair by that same window. Her head was tilted slightly. I knew straight away, 40 years, and you just know. She'd gone quietly in her sleep, early that morning it seemed, and on the outside of the windowsill, on the other side of the glass, the robin was sitting. Not tapping, not moving at all in the way birds usually never stay still. She was simply sitting there, looking in at Edna. I stood there for a minute, maybe more, just watching the bird. When she noticed me, she seemed to gather herself, spread her wings and flew away. I made the calls I needed to make, did what had to be done. That's always how it is. But that image stayed with me. It's with me still. Can I explain it? No. Was it coincidence? Possibly. The robin had come every day for months. Sooner or later it would coincide. But what I remember is this. That morning she didn't tap, she just sat. And that felt different. The second story comes from the hospice some years later. His name was Harry, a big man, a retired builder, the quiet sort who didn't speak about his feelings. His daughter Jenny drove in from Leeds every single day. She'd sit beside him, hold his hand, sometimes read to him, sometimes just be there. A good daughter, the devoted kind. Harry's bed was by a window that looked out onto a bush, an ordinary bush, mostly bare by then, just a few dry branches. The morning before Harry died, I came into the ward and Jenny was already there. We both saw it at the same moment, a thrush sitting on one of those bare branches directly opposite the window, dark, speckled, a proper old bird, completely still, looking in. Jenny reached over and took my hand. She didn't say anything. We stood like that for a few minutes. The thrush didn't fly away. Harry was breathing slowly, asleep. It was very quiet. Then I had to go, other patients to see. But I thought about that bird all day. Harry passed that night peacefully in his sleep. Jenny was with him. The next morning I looked at that bush. The thrush was gone. I checked again over the following days. It never came back. Kate, a young nurse who'd been on my shift, asked me that morning, "Margaret, do you think it meant something, that bird?" I told her honestly, "I don't know, but I'm glad we both saw it, because otherwise I might have thought I'd imagined it." Now, I read something once about how birds navigate, about how they can sense the Earth's magnetic field, something scientists call magnetoreception. It's why they travel thousands of miles and return to the same place year after year. A bird perceives the world in a way we simply don't. It picks up on things we can't feel or measure. I'm not saying that explains what I saw with Edna or with Harry, but I do think we understand very little about what a bird actually senses when it lands at someone's window. Their perception is different from ours and perhaps sharper. Now, here's the thing. After all these years, I've started to notice a difference. Two kinds of tapping. When a bird taps at glass because of its reflection, it's frantic. It comes at the window hard, pulls back, comes again, messy, urgent. That's territory instinct. I've seen that plenty of times and I understand it perfectly well. But there's another kind, when a bird taps slowly, once, twice, then settles and looks in. There's no agitation in it, no hurry. It feels entirely different. And every time I've seen that, I've found myself thinking, this is something else. Mind you, I can't tell you what that something else is. I won't pretend I can. The second thing I've noticed, and this one might sound a bit strange, is that birds seem to appear at windows more often on the days when families gather after a loss. A woman I knew told me once she'd lost her mother not long before. "Margaret," she said, "we were all sitting by the window together, the whole family having breakfast, and a bird tapped at the glass just once, and we all looked at each other and none of us said it out loud, but we all felt the same thing." She paused and then she said, maybe we were reading into it, maybe we just wanted to. I've heard that story in different forms, more times than I can count. Whether it's coincidence or something more, I genuinely cannot say. But I don't dismiss it either. My grandmother spent her whole childhood on a farm. She knew the land and the seasons and the creatures in them better than most people I've met in any consulting room. She used to say, "A robin at your window, especially when she stays and looks in without flying away. That's someone you loved, come to see that you're all right." I laughed at that when I was little. Children do. I don't laugh now. The robin has been a particular bird in this part of the world for a very long time. In the old stories, not frightening ones, gentle ones, the robin was connected to those who'd gone before us, not as something to fear, as a warm presence, something that came to say, "I'm here." I won't tell you what to believe. That's not for me to say. I'll just tell you what I've seen. And what I've seen over 40 years is that these moments happen. And they happen often enough that I've stopped calling them only coincidence. If a bird comes to your window and stays, just notice it. That's all. You don't have to decide what it means. Just notice. And if you've had something like this happen, I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments below. I read everyone. You might be surprised how many of us have had the same quiet moment at the window. Take care of each other. God bless. Margaret.